Hello, 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 hello. Let's get one headphone out so that I can actually see what I'm actually sounding like. Okay, so, hello. My name's Ash, and I am your host for this lovely show or podcast. Sorry, my hair is being ridiculous. But anyway, I'm your host for this lovely show, and I wanted to do kind of an update with you guys, telling you what's going to be going on with the podcast and how the format is going to be changing a little bit. I know I've done these videos before, and I have horrible follow through with any of this, but most of the changes that are going to be happening have to do with COVID-19 and the epidemic and the pandemic that's been going on, and the fact that we are not allowed and we shouldn't be meeting in large groups. And because of that, many of the festivals that we normally would be going to have been canceled or postponed. I know several of the ones I was really looking forward to have been canceled as well. So, including Eight Winds, that was an ADF festival, and then there was also what was that other one? The name just escapes me. There was another one that I really wanted to go to. It'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, I wanted to give everybody a heads up that we will be continuing to do the podcast. But there will be some minor-ish changes to it. Mostly it's to the community calendar, because that was basically a listing of the festivals and the events that were happening in the next 3 months, according to the podcast, when the podcast came out. So being that we cannot meet in large group in person, many of those festivals are either being canceled, postponed, or they're being reformatted to fit a more online schedule. So what's going to be happening is I found a whole bunch of these lists of online festivals and things, and I'm going to be putting those onto the community calendar instead of the usual schedule of festivals that are happening. So what it will be becoming is a list of festivals and events that are coming up that are online, and we'll also be including links to those events and how you can get a hold of more information about them and things of that nature. And I also want to put up here if you have any local events that you would like put on the list, because I'm only working from my own information, and what information I do have is somewhat limited. So if you have any lists of any pagan festivals or events or high days or anything of that nature you might want to be putting on this list, send me information through either the YouTube channel. I have a messaging place you can do messages on, and I also have a Facebook, and I also have an email, which is kindlingthehearthfire@gmail.com. If you would like to throw me some information to add to these lists. It can be for any time of the year, because I do podcasts throughout the entire year. So if you have a festival that's coming up in November that they're switching to online, just in case we're still in this COVID kind of pandemic, shelter in place sort of thing, throw those over, and they'll be put onto the list as long as they're deemed appropriate. I do like to keep this family friendly, just to giving you a heads up. I mean, but send them on over, and I can see about putting them on the list as appropriate. So that's pretty much the only update to the podcast that there should be. I'm doing a podcast in June for the next high day, which is, hold on 1 second, looking that up because sometimes I forget. Just The last one that we did, it is not Imble, it's not Spring Equinox, Peak of Spring, we did that. Summer solstice. It's either summer solstice. Summer solstice, I think, is what it's going to be in June. The summer solstice, the peak of summer. That is the next podcast that's going to be coming up near the end of June. The last one we did was May Day, which was Beltane. Yeah, last one we did was Beltane. And the next one is going to be summer solstice near the end of June. I'll come up with dates in a little bit later. But I just wanted to give everybody a heads up and let everybody know that we are still doing the podcast. It's still coming out. Not that that was too much of a worry for everybody. And I also wanted to thank everybody that subscribed to the podcast either on Anchor, Podbean, Apple, iTunes, pretty much any place you can find a podcast, that's pretty much where it's being uploaded to. Thanks to the large ability to... It's mostly due to the fact that I upload mostly to Anchor. Anchor.fm/KTH is the podcast site on Anchor if you want to check that out. Because they... the distribution is quite wide with them. I have like 10 places plus Anchor that they distribute it to. So, and all I have to do is basically put it on Anchor and it goes to all those different places. So, including Spotify, which is kind of awesome. But if you listen on any podcatcher, that kind of thing, I do appreciate everybody subscribing. I also appreciate everybody that does the Patreon page. I got several new patrons. Thank you everyone for popping into that and making a donation and things like that. I don't like asking for money, but it is always helpful to have money, especially when you're running a podcast and you have to pay for hosting fees and things like that. So thank you everyone for being a patron. And if you are interested in being a patron or checking out the things that patrons get, I am on Patreon. Just look up Kindling the Hearthfire podcast and you'll find us. And one of the things that we're doing for patrons is actually video versions of the podcast. Anyone else will be just listening to it online through audio, whereas patrons get a little bit longer video of me doing the podcast, which is a big perk. It takes me a little bit of time just to edit all those videos, but another thing that the Patreons or patrons get access to is I'm also creating... See, do I have them with me? No, I don't have them with me. They're downstairs. I'm not going to wake you for me going downstairs to get them. But I am actually also creating an oracle deck. And another thing patrons get access to is they get access to the conversation and help me to create this oracle deck. And when the oracle deck does come out, the $5 tier patrons actually get access to coupons so that they can actually purchase the oracle deck when it comes out. So if you want more information on that, check out on my Patreon, because it's literally only like $1 or $5 a month. If you want to be involved in the conversation and get access to the podcast videos, it's basically $1 a month. But if you want access to the coupon and the oracle deck and the conversation there, $5 a month is all I ask. And with $1 a month, you still get involved in the conversation, but you don't get that coupon. So, I don't like toot my own horn, but I really do appreciate all my patrons. And I also do appreciate all my subscribers, everybody listening, and everybody sticking with me even as I went through all the stupidity of all that was going on with Podbean when I lost everything to do with Podbean because of some misunderstanding. And Podbean is back up and running again. And I got what I wanted, and they got what they wanted, and we're good. So, all my subscribers on Podbean, I lost all my subscribers. I didn't lose all the downloads. Like, I have still a record of all the downloads I had on Podbean, but all the subscribers on Podbean are gone because of that little hiccup. But I'm glad to have Podbean back up, and I'm also glad to have Anchor up. I've got about 20 people that are listening to my podcast at this point through Anchor or some form of podcatcher that Anchor distributes on, which I'm extremely thankful for. So that's pretty much what this update is all about, and we're going to be doing a nighttime reading video tonight, and it'll be a pre-recorded video. Yesterday's kind of went haywire because my phone got too hot because it was in the upper 90s yesterday, and my computer wasn't handling the heat, and neither was my phone. I was lucky enough to actually capture the audio and able to post last night's reading on Anchor. But tonight we'll be actually doing a Fairy Tale Fridays, but it'll be pre-recorded because I have a meeting. I have other obligations at around 8 p.m. So I'll be pre-recording that, and I'll be posting it up on YouTube, and I'll be posting the audio on Anchor as well. So be sure to check that out. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everybody for subscribing. Thank you all my patrons. I called them Patreons for some like unknown reason. When it should be patrons. Anyway. But thank you everyone for supporting this podcast and supporting me as I'm doing this project, and I hope everybody is doing well and continues to do well, and I hope you always will pray with a good fire and be well, even during this time of hardship. And I hope you have a good evening, I hope you have a good morning, I hope you have a good day. Anyways, so talk to you later, see you later. Alright.